Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, I, Aaron, and Kevin are talking about mourning. Not the opposite of nighttime, but mourning, like when something's missing or lost, and when we feel sad about that, and how there is the presence of Jesus in the midst of our mourning, and eventual final comfort that we have in all of eternity. So in this conversation, we'll get real practical about what that looks like in our lives as we are people who are mourn and we long for comfort. So as always, we hope you enjoy it. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Aaron.
It's good to see you today.
Likewise, I like your shirt, man.
Well, I was thinking about you this morning as I was getting dressed.
Yeah?
I don't always think about you when I'm getting dressed.
I'm glad.
But today I thought to myself, I think today is going to be the day that Kevin wears the same shirt that I have, or the same shirt I have as him. And I thought that would be really funny on podcast recording day to be wearing the same shirt. And it was I just had this gut feeling. And when I get this gut feeling, like usually my intuition is on. It wasn't today though. You're not wearing it
today. Yeah. We're overdue. It's been a long time since we've matched.
Yeah. I mean, what are the odds though? Somebody should run that calculation. Like, say I have, I don't know, probably 20-ish shirts that I rotate through. Mm-hmm. You got 20-ish. Mm-hmm. There's, let's say we work together 5 days a week. We each have 20 shirts. That
sounds like a permutation.
I don't even.
That was that thing. Do you remember that? It was in math. I think it's like an exclamation mark.
Okay.
And you have to do like 20 times 19 times 18 times 17 times 16. Yeah. I think you like go down the line like that, but for the amount of days that you work together.
Yeah.
So like you just do 5 of that, like 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, which ends up being a really high number.
Yeah.
Which means it's a really, really low chance of it happening. And yet it has happened.
I know.
Coincidence?
It's happened twice, right?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Because the first time we were really blown away, and the second time we were like, figures.
Yeah. Well, just so you're aware, listeners, viewers, we do not call each other and talk about what we're going to wear each day. So, we just let it happen, and here we are, wearing regular clothes, and yet talking about it. So, yeah.
Well, how'd that make you feel, Aaron?
What?
Did it make you sad that we weren't matching?
A little bit.
Are you mourning that? Are you grieving?
Oh, you know what? I am. I don't know. I don't know. I suppose we could talk about maybe what we're going to talk about, which is mourning and comfort, as we're looking at these beatitudes, the beginning of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I preached on this last Sunday. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what did you think? We haven't really had a chance to chat much about that topic or that sermon. I don't know what.
Yeah, what stood out?
What stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciated. It was kind of like I think maybe 3/4 of the way through the sermon when you acknowledged that our culture is very anti-mourning. Our culture is
Do you
very.
agree with that?
Oh yes, 100%. I meet with a fella named Micah, and sometimes when we meet, he'll have different ways of saying. He doesn't just say like, "Hey, how's it going? Oh, good,"
Yeah.
Like he'll say things like salutations, or if I say, "How's it going?" or "How are you?" he'll say, "Better than I deserve." So he's always got these like different statements that kind of throw you off. They're not the usual ones.
Okay.
And he does it. He told me he does it intentionally because so often, we say, "Oh, how's it going?" or "How are you doing?" Like people just say "good," like halfway through you're asking them. It's like you don't even think about it. You just say, "Ah, good." Good. I'm good. And it's probably in part because like I think culturally we're conditioned to say that.
Yeah.
To respond in the positive, to say that things are good, maybe act like things are good, because we're so constantly like swarmed with this idea that we got to be good, or we got to be positive, or we got to be happy. Culture makes us want to like avoid any notion of mourning, or sadness or grief. You know, like I think you mentioned maybe at funerals, we don't even talk about like death.
Yeah.
We say, no, it's just a celebration of life.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating life
Yeah.
or even remembering the good things about a person's life. But we are so afraid to look at those sad things kind of in the face and say, no, this is really sad. Like I'm grief stricken by this. We have a hard time sitting in that place of discomfort. And maybe in part because so much of our experience is just, I don't know, avoiding it, getting it out of our view, not thinking about it. We got a lot of ways to make ourselves feel better too, which I think is a difference now than, you know, say 150 years ago. Well, I don't think about it a lot, but I'm always struck by if I'm reading anything from like, you know, a century gone by, it's like, my gosh, did they have it hard?
Yeah.
And they just had to live with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like we got television and music. I mean, like, man, I throw on my headphones and I just put on music that makes me feel good, you know, when I don't feel good. Or coffee, you know, access to, I mean, caffeine, you know, which is a pick-me-up, and it makes me feel, sometimes it makes me feel too good. And my head gets discombobulated. But we have access to so many things. I mean, air conditioning, you know, or heat. Right. And then I read about these Yoopers like hauling stuff across the UP in the middle of winter, and like just this hardy group of people.
Right. Well, and even, I mean, and even at the point of death itself, I mean, what do we do? Well, I mean, if you keep your body, most often now we embalm that body to try to make it look good and preserve it until maybe a convenient time for the family to gather together for the funeral. You know, you can even store that body in a cooler for weeks, you know, after the person has even died, so family can get together for the funeral instead of like actually, you know, burying them right away and like gathering together and just dealing with it, or we cremate and then we don't even like look at the body, you know, and so even at the point of death, like we've found all these ways to I don't know, soften its
sting.
Yeah. And I think we do it for a variety of reasons. You know, one is the cultural pressure, like we've talked about, or the access culturally to numb out and not deal with the hard things. I think we do that in this culture a lot. But as I also said in my sermon, I think from a Christian perspective, we're tempted also to feel like maybe we shouldn't mourn. You know, that I don't know, we hear this a lot from people, and I've maybe wrestled with it myself, where it's like, well, I mean, I believe in Jesus, you know, he's strong, he loves me, you know, he's got it under control. I don't need to be sad, you know, like there's those kinds of like, you know, even I don't know, there's Christian pressures or whatever to make it feel like we shouldn't mourn. Things are supposed to be good because we believe in Jesus. But Jesus is actually saying something different in this beatitude, where he's saying, blessed are you who mourn. Blessed are you who are mourning right now, which is an acknowledgement of the reality that until the resurrection from the dead, until that last day, there will be mourning. And being a follower of Jesus will actually make you more aware of that mourning. That's what Jesus is saying. Like when you follow after him and you desire his kingdom and the perfection of it and the final and full restoration, when that's what we desire, and then we look at what we have right now, we're going to mourn over a lot of stuff, you know? And so that's what Jesus is telling us. Like, the more that you follow me, probably the more you're going to mourn. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't really like mourning, you know, but then what that does is it like that anticipation of the resurrection and the restoration of all things, it actually makes us long for that even more, because we don't have it yet.
Right.
We don't have it yet. And I think, like, that's why an appropriate understanding of the resurrection from the dead, like, and the life of the world to come, our future hope, if we don't have that right and a right understanding and anticipation of it, then I think what happens is we instead of waiting for that day and anticipating it, we think that we're supposed to have all that now. I think is what happens. So
yeah, and I appreciate too in your sermon that you helped us understand that there's a little bit of a tension there. You called it, this tension between the now and the not yet, right? Like, it's not that there's no comfort whatsoever now, and that we just got to go around moping every day, in misery, and to try to do that even. But it's so it's not that. It's not that we're called to be just constantly sad, essentially. But there is also a reality to we're not gonna have fully constant, some sort of blissful existence now on this earth, right? Like, we're gonna be faced with heartbreak and heartache, and God's call to us has never been, one that says, yeah, like, you're with me, everything's just gonna be smooth sailing.
Right.
It's really like kind of the opposite, right? Like, no, if you follow Jesus, there is going to be mourning. You are going to have your eyes open to, so many of the things in this world that are just broken, so many things in myself that are broken. And yet, you're also not just following me, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I have come to bring peace, and you know that I'm going to restore all things in the end. But you even have that foretaste of that peace right now, because you know it. You know it's coming. So even now you can kind of dabble and taste in that.
Yeah. And work towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that whole idea of, like, in Paul's letter in 2 Corinthians, in his first chapter, he does this whole thing about we're called to comfort those who are in any affliction with the same comfort that we've been comforted by God.
That's right. That word teaser.
Yeah. So it's basically what Paul is saying, and I didn't flesh this out all that much, but Christ suffered and went through afflictions, even death, and conquered it, so that he can comfort us as we deal with our afflictions. And then as he who has overcome afflictions and death can comfort us who are in afflictions and death, we then too can comfort other people in their afflictions as God has comforted us in ours. So he's just a step ahead of us. Right. And then as we receive comfort from him, we can comfort others. With not with our comfort, not with earthly comfort, but the kind of comfort that God can give to us. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like, so I've got 4 kids. You've got 2. We both have young sons right now. Mine's a couple months older than yours. Yours is sleeping better than mine. I need you to comfort me right now. No, but it would be like, if we were sharing those struggles, and I've kind of been, I've been through it, if you're going through it, then it's like, I can say to you, I don't know, in some way, like, I can offer some comfort to you having gone through an experience that you're going through, right? We know this reality, or I've seen it play out too. Like, we've had people from our church. I'm just thinking of a number of examples, but like one family lost a baby, a stillbirth, but they're part of a community now of other people who have had that same experience, and they get comforted by those same people who have had that same experience.
Right.
So we can, Jesus has had the same experience as us, even death itself, and he's conquered death. So Jesus can comfort. We know that he can provide comfort to those who mourn, because he's already overcome that thing that we mourn the most, which is death.
Yeah. And I think like one of your tips at the end of your sermon of kind of how to practically do this, like, this is what you're kind of bringing in right now practically. What does this look like? And when we've been kind of trained by Jesus in the way of mourning, then we're not so quick to try and move to that like stasis of like happiness or peace or whatever. It kind of slows us down, knowing that, oh no, mourning is part of existence on this earth and part of, especially when things are not going right, when they're broken. Mm-hmm. But if I've been through that, then like I've experienced it, so I don't need to rush whoever is coming to me to that place. I can first just be present with them, mm-hmm. use my ears, let them share with me mm-hmm. this heaviness. But also, I think one of your tips had to do with kind of pointing to that not yet. Yeah. And like you're saying, like when you're a stand-in, when you've gone through something and you know just how rough it was, you know, to go through it, that helps you open your ears to someone else who's now in the middle of it, expressing it, just to listen. But you're also standing as kind of a living proof that there is another side to this as well, right? I'm a little further down the road. Yeah. I know what it's like to be in your shoes, and man, you're right, it sucks. Yeah. Let me weep with you for a minute, like Paul, right? Like weep with those who weep. Because I've been there, I know how you feel, right? Yeah. And sometimes we're not in a position to say that. Sometimes our experience can't speak to someone else. Right. But other times God connects us, like this couple you mentioned, to other people who've been to it. But then they're kind of they're standing there as, hey, I'm living proof, man. Like there's a road ahead. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it right now, but you're gonna get through. And hey, if I can help you in any way, like ask me. Like if there's something I can share with you, please let me. Right. But we can only do that too because, like you said, Jesus has also gone through the ringer. Like he's experienced the brokenness, the damage, unto the most extreme form, death. Yeah. And then he stands as living proof of even to death. Yeah. There's another side to this. Like there's a road ahead, and it's a resurrection road. Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, I love that, man.
I was thinking about this while you're talking. It was a number of years ago, but we had family come up to visit us up here. One of my wife's brothers and his wife. And at that point, they just had one kid who was like, I don't know, a year old or something. And I don't think we had any kids at that point. I think there may have just been the one kid. And so we went on this hike. I had never been on it. None of us had ever been on this hike before. All right, and it wasn't an easy hike. It wasn't long, but it wasn't easy. It was Bear Bluff. I don't know. You haven't been up
I've heard of it. Yeah. No, I've never been.
Well, we should go sometime. Yeah. But I didn't. I had seen pictures of like what the summit looked like and stuff, but I didn't know what the terrain was going to be like or anything. So we're getting into this hike, and they've got this less than year old kid who now like we're at least like a mile in to this hike, and it's a loop. We know this, but it's sort of like, well, how far have we gone? And then the baby started getting really upset, and then they needed to take the baby out, and my sister-in-law needed to nurse the baby, and then it's like, oh, man, the baby's tired, and should we turn around? Do we keep going? And I was like, you know what? If you guys want to you guys just sit and stay right here, and I'll run ahead. I'll check it out, kind of, figure out where we're gonna go and stuff. So I literally did that, and I took off, and I just kind of went for a jog for a while, and I made it all the way to the summit, and we weren't that far away, and so I went back down, and I was like, we can do this. It's gonna be great. We can get to that spot. We had packed lunches. I was like, just a little bit farther. We'll sit down. We'll chill. We'll just enjoy the view. Like we can do this. And so it's that thing where it's like, if you know what the journey is and what the path is, and you kind of see that end result, it's like it is gonna be okay. And I gave that as a tip. Like, don't say, oh, sure,
yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's not the first thing they need to hear.
Right. Because in that moment, like, it really wasn't. It was like mass chaos, with like kids. I think my wife might have had a migraine. It was just like, it's really not okay. So for me to come back and be, it's great, guys. Like, nobody was in the mood to hear that, But but to reassure them, like, like I'm with you. I've been there. Like, we're gonna do this together. Like,
and maybe the difference too is, like, in your story, you know, it would be one thing for it to kind of hit this point, you know, in the journey. You haven't run ahead yet.
Yeah.
You're just with them and you're saying, we're going to be fine,
Yeah.
right? Like, you have no idea whether you're going to be fine, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what the path is ahead. But the difference is you did go.
Right.
Like, you had seen what was ahead. You knew what was coming.
Right.
And so you could, from experience, share that truth, that reality. Hey, I'm living proof. I know what's ahead.
Right.
And so, I think that's kind of the encouragement, right? Or the call is for us not to just say nice words because we think they'll help other people when we really don't know. But to honor the truth of where we're at right now, and that it is difficult. But if I have that experience, if I do know this path because I've gone through it, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to share. But
well, that's and ultimately the it's going to be okay is the pointing to the not yet.
That's right.
It's not in this moment. It's really not okay.
Yeah.
Ultimately, on the day that Christ returns and brings us to that ultimate summit view of life and the restoration of all things, that will be okay. It'll be better than okay, you know.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we're together in this journey and in this slog, you know. And we're gonna do it. You know? So. Yeah. Jesus mourned.
I was trying to remember. Did you quote Isaiah at all?
Oh, not Isaiah. No, and I'm not even thinking about Isaiah right now.
Okay. Well, tell me more.
Well, I'm thinking about Jesus with Lazarus.
It's good a friend.
Yeah. Well, and Jesus wept. You know, at his friend's death.
Yeah. Well, Isaiah talks about the coming, you know, servant of God, who we know is Jesus, and that he's going to be a man kind of characterized by grief.
Yeah. Did you use that Isaiah passage the week before?
I used Isaiah 61.
Because I almost used Isaiah 61 as well, because it does talk about like mourning and that kind of stuff. So I was thinking about doing it again.
Yeah.
But we used Isaiah 40, which is comfort my people.
Another beautiful passage.
Also good.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like, in Jesus wept, you know, that's the shortest verse in the Bible, but it's definitely not like a throwaway descriptor of Jesus. I heard once, like, there was like a study done of like the emotions of Jesus, like in the Gospels, and like the most common one that he experiences, or is shared at least by the Gospel writers, is like sadness, grief, you know, mourning, which is maybe striking to some, you know, to just realize, man, yeah, Jesus, he wasn't always, I mean, yeah, it's strange because we know that he also brings joy, right? Who is it, John, that says like, or no, it's Jesus who says like my disciples can't be fasting when the bridegroom is standing with them. So he comes to bring joy, and yet he himself experienced seemingly more brokenness, you know, more kind of tragedy and sadness in his time here than at least that, you know, and maybe it's just that so much of what the world thinks of as joy or happiness is just a little shallower than the kind of deep, resounding joy that Jesus, I mean, because Jesus even says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Paul will speak in a similar way, you know, about basically, you know, it is through suffering that produces, you know, hope and character and all that stuff. But I you know, this whole idea of like living in a world and a culture that doesn't like mourning, I've just heard it echoed many times and seen people deal with this, even after preaching at, you know, a member from our church who's had is a widow. She told me that, you know, many people told her and have still told her years after her husband's death, like, oh, you shouldn't mourn his death anymore. Like, that you should be done with that and move on. You know, it's like, come on, you know. I had the same experience with another lady who was a widow a couple of years ago at Camp Luther when I was serving as pastor of the week. her husband had died, and basically everybody in her life, all of her Christian friends and stuff, basically were doing all the stuff that I said not to do, telling her to move on, trying to just keep her busy, all this stuff. And she was asking me about this, and I remember I pointed her to the fact that there's to the whole idea of lament. And I mean, I didn't talk about this in my sermon at all, but like the whole idea of lament in the Bible. That, you know, we have a whole book of the Bible called Lamentations, Lamentations. And in the book of Psalms, there are a variety of kinds of psalms. The most common kind of psalm is a psalm of lament.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So the psalms are full of laments. And a lament is essentially, it's saying to God, God, because I believe in you, and because you're a good God, I don't like the way that things are. Why this way? You know, if you say who you are, do something about this, please. You know?
Yeah.
So lamenting is not a lack of trust in God. Lament is actually, it's because we have such a deep faith in our God, we can actually tell him, you know, how we're truly feeling about stuff. And that is, lamenting, I think, it's mourning, right? It's mourning the fact that things are not right. And so I told this woman this, and she was like, she was so relieved. Like it was a burden lifted off of her, that to tell her, like, you can grieve, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can mourn, you can lament, you can tell God you're not happy with the fact that your husband's dead. You shouldn't be happy about that. You know, I mean, sure, yes, we can rejoice that they are with the Lord, you know, and are no longer suffering and all that stuff. But
that's good for them, not great for me. Yeah, I'm still down here.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, that's so good, man. Such a good reminder. And I think, you know, if that's new for you, like as a listener, you know, maybe it'll be a little awkward when you first try to lament to God. But like my encouragement would be, like, understand that God is the best listener.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes we want God to speak. We're like, I want to hear from you, God. I want you to tell me like what I need to hear. God invites us in prayer to like just share with him, and he will listen. He's an incredible listener. And in his good timing, I mean, I think the harder part sometimes is kind of keeping our eyes open for his response. He does respond. Right? He does respond. And it may not look the way that we're hoping for it to look or expecting for it to look, but yeah, go to the Psalms, look for a lament psalm, and find the one that really resonates with whatever it is you're dealing with, whatever particular thing that's upsetting you or putting you in that tension of, this isn't the way I thought my life was going to be. This isn't the way I thought things were going to go. And air it up to God and let him field what it is you're suffering with, because he can handle it. And he invites us to draw near to him. And maybe part of the misnomer we have is that somehow getting close to God means that we look happier or look stronger or look this way. But in the scriptures, it seems like it's the opposite. That like God is like attracted, you know, to our brokenness, to our suffering. It's like a magnet for him, you know? So if that's where you find yourself, don't feel like you're distant from God. Know that he is going to draw near to you. Don't do what the world says and busy yourself up and numb out. Just allow yourself that space to kind of be broken with God. And let him field your struggle.
Yep. And again, you're blessed when you mourn, because Jesus promised you, as I'm with you. The kingdom of heaven is yours right now. So you know, Jesus is coming to you in your mourning, like Kevin's saying, in your suffering, in all that difficulty. He's coming to you, bringing hope to you, bringing comfort to you. Again, all those things coming to you, even right now, to draw you ever closer to that day when it will be fully yours, on that day of Christ's return. And so, again, let's hold one another in hope. And I think over the next couple of weeks in the Beatitudes, it's going to be similar. It's similar kind of theology. It's this kind of constant reminder Jesus is with us. We're blessed. We long for this day to come. It's not quite here yet, but Jesus is still here. And so that's kind of what all the Beatitudes are, with just little different angles. We had the mourning, and then what's this next one again?
Humility this week.
Humility.
Meekness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's again like the same, what you're saying, that verbal pattern. Those who are, for you will.
Yeah.
Those who are, for you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that future hope.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll keep jamming on this, and pray that as you mourn, because you are people who are mourning, that you will be comforted, and then go and comfort some others with that same comfort that God provides you in Jesus. So, Kevin, as always, good to be with you, bud.
Amen, brother.